Trustee Augustine.
Here.
Trustee Gale.
Here.
Trustee Holder.
Here.
Trustee Katina.
Here.
Trustee Kukler.
Here.
Trustee McCarty. President Livingston.
Here. And with that, we have a quorum. Mr. Clerk, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
My pleasure. I pledge allegiance to the flag
All right, we have one action item under item number 2 on our agenda, the report this evening, but a few announcements first. Today is National First Responders Day, and to both our chiefs, thank you on behalf of the Village Board, to you and your teams, not only on this day but throughout the year. It's a vital component of our community and our well-being, so please offer our thanks on behalf of the entire community. We also want to thank not only you chiefs, but Ryan, you and your team, and Andre was out there. We had some challenging weather on Saturday night, pretty significant rain event, and we had everybody out in the field, either clearing basins or putting up barricades. And this was a rain event that peaked somewhat in, I would say, the 7 or 8 o'clock hour. And we want to be proactive after each one of these storm events. We learn each time to respond, to be proactive. Each time we do a new project with the state or the county, we try to add capacity to our stormwater conveyance. And we really do try to work with Ryan and his team. Ryan, is there anything you want to add about the amount of rain and significance and anything else?
Sure. Good evening. So the amount of rain that we received on Saturday evening was about 2.78 inches of rain, which equated in this rain event to an approximately a 3-year rain event, which has about a 33% chance of occurring in any given year. In this particular rain event, our sewer system did reach capacity and we had some flooding in intersections, but once the rain stopped, the system returned back to normal.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, the other thing we're going to be doing this evening is hearing about our annual audit. There are very few things more important than our budget and our auditing that we take seriously as an oversight board in the village, so appreciate your attention on that and all those involved with our annual audit. I want to thank, I see Nancy Cummings here. Nancy, thank you for the opportunity on behalf of the village board for the State of LaGrange event that the LaGrange Business Association held last week. It provided us an opportunity to speak about the many things that have happened since at this point last year, and a lot of different projects, I think over 900 permits, and things that we've done to advance our 2020 vision for the village. So it's a forum that provides us an opportunity to communicate with many of our businesses and residents. Let's see, I'm also happy to report we received a Sustainable Landscaping Award, the 2019 Sustainable Landscaping Award from the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District for incorporating green, sustainable landscaping into the recent parking lot design on Harris Avenue. These lots were designed using permeable pavers, which further the village's goals of furthering environmental and sustainable practices wherever possible. So we do want to thank our Environmental Quality Commission residents and Ryan and your team and the MWRD for that as well. I suppose I have that, so we'll display that. We'll pass that around, and appreciate getting that. Another initiative of the Environmental Quality Commission, and Dave McCarty was a big factor in getting this going, was the sustainability project as it deals with pumpkin composting. And so when Halloween is past and it's time to get rid of those pumpkins, there will be a composting event on Saturday, November 2nd from 9 a.m. to noon. And we'll put that out as well on the village website. This event will take place at our Public Works facility located at 937 Barnesdale Road. together with LaGrange Park. We do that in conjunction with LaGrange Park, so great sharing going on there. We also want to thank the LaGrange Business Association, Nancy, for a successful Halloween walk. Our businesses participated there. We thank them for that. We've got Halloween coming, and we suggest trick-or-treat hours from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. When there's candy involved, it's tough to know what happens, but we'll want everybody to have an alert and safe Halloween if you're a motorist, and encourage children to be visible and present and reflective in terms of their visibility. At this point, I believe we have one action item, and that is to ask the Board of Trustees for their approval on an appointment to the Community Economic Development Commission. There is a vacancy for a full term that is opened up, and Justin Hansen is a person that lives in the village that has served on 2 of our commissions, the Environmental Quality Commission and the Design Review Commission. He has been active in many civic events and has expressed his interest, and we've expressed our interest in his participation on the Community Economic Development Commission, the CEDC, and he has allowed us to put his name forward. So with that, to the board, I would seek your approval of Justin to serve on the Community Economic Development Commission.
With great pleasure, I so move.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Holder. Trustee Kotinik, it's been moved and seconded to approve the appointment of Justin Hansen. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we thank Justin in advance for his continued service. And thank you to the board for your consideration. With that, why don't we hear from Andre on the manager's report?
Thank you, Mr. President. Earlier this year, the village was awarded a bronze designation by SolSmart, a national program that seeks to encourage solar energy development. In furtherance of the village's commitment to encourage solar access, and pursuant to a recommendation by the LaGrange Environmental Quality Commission, the village board will waive a portion of the typical building permit fees for solar energy system installations. For a standard residential roof-mounted solar energy system, this is an average savings of $200. Additional information regarding the program is available on the village's website. Also, the Village Hall will be closed on Monday, November 11th for the Veterans Day holiday. The Village Board still intends to hold a Village Board meeting that evening at 7:30 p.m. Regular office hours will resume on Tuesday, November 12th. Thank you.
Thank you. To the board, any questions for Andre this evening? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, if we could ask you to read the items on the consent agenda.
Certainly. Matters on the consent agenda will be considered by a single motion and vote because they have already been fully considered by the board at a previous meeting or have been determined to be of routine nature. Any member of the Board of Trustees may request that an item be moved from the consent agenda to current business for separate consideration. Item A, ordinance, creating an additional Class A3 liquor license, Yakuzo and Almaraz Corp., doing business as Brothers Mexican Grill. Item B, agreement, Illinois Department of Healthcare and Family Services, ground emergency medical transport. Item C, purchase, Public Works rock salt. Item D, contract, Geographic Information System Consortium. Item E, resolution, Cook County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. Item F, minutes of the Village of LaGrange Board of Trustees regular meeting, Monday, October 14, 2019. Item G, consolidated voucher 191028.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk, and if you could read items under current business.
Under current business, one item which includes the consideration of matters being presented to the Board of Trustees for action. Item A, fiscal year 2018-2019 comprehensive annual financial reports.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Item number 4 on our agenda, public comments regarding items that are on our agenda this evening. All right, seeing none, item 5 to the Board of Trustees for consent agenda and vote.
I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Trustee Augustine?
Yes. As I've previously stated, I recuse myself from voting on items on the voucher related to the village prosecutor.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine. It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda this evening?
I have a question. Ryan, with regard to the rock salt purchase, in the comments in here, you noted that we're going to pay not only a lot more than we've paid in the past, but higher than other municipalities around us. Can I understand a little more background on that and why we have to pay more than others when we're such a better customer?
Sure. I had the same question myself. In speaking with the salt vendor, they didn't provide a lot of specificity in terms of the reason why our salt prices are different than our adjacent neighbors. However, though, when looking at the overall salt prices in the region, there are communities that are higher, both in DuPage and our area as well, that received pricing through the state. So while we did receive higher pricing, it is consistent with overall pricing in the region.
Isn't the price set by the state contract, though?
We bid our salt through the state contract. However, though, we receive individual bids for our community from the vendors that bid on our community. So unfortunately, in this particular procurement process through the state, we only received one bid from Cargill Salt.
Because of the general shortage in salt?
That's correct. It's generally a supply and demand issue. There's been challenges with production in some of the salt mines, as well as there's been increased demand over the last 2 years for salt. And then there's been also transportation issues with bringing up salt through the river system and how it gets to this region.
And last question, you've been experimenting with alternatives to using salt. Curious, is that far enough along that it's a reasonable priced alternative?
Sure. So we have made investments in new equipment to be able to use alternate ways of spreading de-icing chemicals. And so some of the systems that we use for pre-wetting and putting down chemicals before the storm event will help us reduce the amount of salt that we use. However, though, we still will need to use rock salt as part of our program for snow and ice control.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments on the consent agenda? Trustee Augustine.
I just had one also on the salt. Bill asked most of the other questions I had. I did a little research on it, and again, not too deep, but I did see where they talked about the shortages and why, and so that all made sense to me, but it still doesn't make sense to me that we would be paying so much more than other municipalities. And so we can talk about that at another point. But what I wanted to know is, it looked like in the report that it's in our best interest to go with the state group, but then we get these individual prices. Have we looked at going independently? What are the rates significantly higher if we just go straight to Midwest Salt, some other company?
Sure. So traditionally, in speaking with the state of Illinois about it, they generally receive approximately 4 bids through the state program. However, this year they only had 2 companies bid on the state purchasing contract. And so one of my questions to the state was to discuss alternate procurement methods to see if there's a way that the village might be able to purchase salt at a lower cost. What the state and what other vendors have explained or have told us is that unfortunately, a lot of the villages that are seeking salt independent of that process are either not getting bids or paying a premium higher than what we're paying for rock salt. So at this time, it's our recommendation to continue with the state program. I think we're just going to have to be prepared that looking forward into the future, it's going to be a higher cost. So we're going to have to look at ways to reduce salt usage or be more, I don't want to say creative, but use the de-icing methodologies that we were talking about pre-wetting to reduce salt usage.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine. Trustee Kutinek?
Thank you, Mr. President. I did notice the gentlemen from Brothers Mexican are here. Since we're considering your liquor license and you're relatively a newer business, if you want to take an opportunity to approach the microphone and have a free commercial, it's up to you. But just wanted to open it up for you guys. And if not, that's fine.
Trustee Kukler and Trustee Kutinek advanced this with yours truly at the last board meeting, and we really appreciate your investment in LaGrange. I know Trustee Kutinek said that at the meeting, and Trustee Kukler as well. And our door is open, and we look forward to more success from your business, and we're very grateful you're here this evening. Any other, thank you, Trustee Kutinek. Any other questions on the consent agenda motion this evening? Comments? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, roll call vote.
Trustee Kukler.
Aye.
Trustee Kutinek.
Aye.
Trustee Holder.
Aye.
Trustee Gale.
Aye.
Trustee Augustine.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion is approved. Item number 6, our consideration of current business. Item A, fiscal year 2018-2019 comprehensive annual financial reports. Referred to Trustee Augustine.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Village Board has received the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, CAFR, of the Village of LaGrange for the fiscal year, May 1st, 2018 to April 30th, 2019. The report is prepared by the Finance Department and reviewed by our auditors, Sikich LLP. Sikich has rendered an unmodified or clean opinion for the Village of LaGrange, stating that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the village and results of its operations as of April 30th, 2019. The unmodified opinion of Sikich LLP also reflects that the village's financial statements are prepared and presented in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles. Also included is the auditor's communication to the Village Board for the year ended April 30th, 2019, which includes the following documents. Required communication. A letter from the auditor dated October 2nd, 2019, which is the last day of their field work, reflecting the end of the audit engagement regarding certain professional auditing standards requiring specific matters to be communicated to the Village Board, including the limited audit scope related to the required supplementary informational, RSI, section of the CAFR. No new accounting policies were adopted, and the application of existing policies was not changed. All material accounting estimates were reasonable, misstatements or year-end adjusting journal entries were corrected, and there were no difficulties or disagreements with management during the course of the audit. Management letter, auditing standards also requires communications to the Village Board regarding certain matters that are opportunities for strengthening internal controls and operational efficiencies. The fiscal year 2018-2019 management letter reports that there were no findings of material weaknesses involving the village's internal control. However, the management letter noted the following deficiency comments. I've just got probably another hour's worth of reading to do, so stick with us. Sikich noted that the village held deposits with financial institutions which were not insured by the FDIC. The uncollateralized material at JP Morgan Chase were results of a transfer on April 30th to cover pension payroll. However, Chase uses day prior to month end to determine collateral balance coverage needs. As such, village funds were uncollateralized for a single day at the end of the month. The village will adjust internal funding policies relating to the pension payroll to reflect the collateralization policy at JP Morgan Chase. The uncollateralized funds at MB Financial were related to the receipt of negotiated settlement from the quarry litigation. Pursuant to the settlement agreement, the funds were to be deposited into an escrow account, which took several weeks to set up and complete the transactions. The village was in the process of working with MB Financial to establish a collateral agreement at the end of the fiscal year. Effective May 13, 2019, the village secured a collateral agreement with the bank to ensure that deposits are properly collateralized. The agreement includes a provision for the bank to provide collateral of village deposits at 110% of market value. The management letter identified several upcoming accounting pronouncements which will need to be implemented into subsequent CAFRs. The management letter also included the following other comment. The village does not have a formal policy requiring users to change computer passwords on a regular basis. In order to reduce the risk of access to computer files by unauthorized personnel, the auditor recommends the village institute a policy which requires passwords to be changed on a periodic basis. The village has recently transitioned the existing computer network to reside on new fiber optic open infrastructure and installed a new voice over IP phone system. The village is also currently in the process of consolidating network servers at the police department in order to decrease future capital, operating and maintenance costs. As part of this new overall network design, the village will work with IT consultants to develop a village-wide password policy, which includes criminal justice information system standards. Factoring in the fiscal year 2018-2019 surplus of approximately $602,000, which is approximately $55,000 more than projected in current fiscal year 2020 budget, the general fund's reserve balance at fiscal year end is $9.5 million, or 61.5% of annual operating expenditures, which is within the targeted reserve range. However, please recall, the surplus was primarily due to 2 large building permits issued for the Pathway Senior Living Facility and Amita Grange Memorial Hospital, and vacancies in the Public Works and Administration departments. With modest economic and revenue growth expected, it is our intention to remain fiscally conservative with general operating expenditures in order to remain well within the targeted fund balance of 50 to 75% of annual operating expenditures. In addition, ongoing uncertainties at the state level, including a property tax freeze, new fees, permanent revenue decreases, and pension reform, could have significant impact on village finances going forward. So tonight, we have Mr. Dan Berg with us tonight, partner with Sikich LLP, and he's in attendance right here, right at the podium right now. So at this time, I'd like to introduce him, and he can shed a little bit more information on this. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, as always. Please feel free to jump in with any questions you might have regarding this document, which seems to grow a little bit longer each year. This year, we were required to implement another Government Accounting Standards Board statement that added about 5 more pages to the report. And it regarded other post-employment benefits that required an additional actuarial report, and we incorporated those numbers into the village's financials with further adjustment. The audit went very, very smoothly again this year. The staff did an excellent job preparing for us. We arrived in March to do a planning meeting and our preliminary field work where we interview staff, we get a lay of the land of what's new, try to get an understanding of what different things we might be auditing this year than in the prior years. Then we came back in July for a week to actually test the numbers and gain assurances, a level of assurance that we were able to issue a unmodified opinion on the financial statements. I always want to point out that the financial statements are truly written by staff. There's not too many clients that we have at Sikich that staff writes the financial statements, so congratulations, Joe, nice job, we appreciate it. And if you haven't had a chance to read these, I always recommend that you start with the management discussion and analysis, which appears immediately after our opinion, and it compares last year to this year and gives you a little bit of a flavor and understanding of why the numbers changed from one year to the other. Additionally, it is a comprehensive annual financial report. It is being submitted to GFOA for its certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting. It's received it for 20-odd years in the past, and we believe this one will get it too. What that entails is that there's an additional introductory section and statistical section. I think most of my trustees at my other towns really appreciate that additional layer of information in the statistical section. Gives you a 10-year trend data, and it is very interesting, at least to me, for gaining a little better depth in what you're looking at as far as the financial statements. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about the process, about the work product you have before you, or anything else you might have.
Trustee Kotinik.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Berg. First, a comment and a question. The comment, the Certificate of Achievement for 23 consecutive years, I think it shows how high we set the bar here in LaGrange, and personally want to congratulate Joe and Lou on your work. Year in and year out, you guys achieve this outstanding work, and I look forward to receiving, as a village, the 24th consecutive at some point next year. The question, Mr. Berg, how long has Sikich been the auditor of the village, and how often do you rotate audit managers on our engagement?
So Sikich has had the audit for 17 years now. We actually had a new manager this year on the audit. Generally speaking, as staff works their way up through the ranks, they become the manager on the audit, and the prior manager rotates off. And that's sort of what happened in the current year. So we expect that team to be together for 2, maybe 3 years tops, because I think Gina is ready for promotion soon, so might be next year that Gina becomes the manager and a new in charge comes on. It's sort of a natural rotation that you get a new look from the people that are actually doing the testing.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Kotinik. Other questions? Trustee Holder.
GASB 88 with regard to our debt that was enacted in March of this year, or excuse me, last year, so that was a change of sort. Does that affect our pension obligations at all, or only just direct debt?
Just direct borrowings directly
So the
from a
bonds that we
bank.
have outstanding?
No.
No.
Direct, meaning that you would negotiate with one bank, perhaps a local bank, for a mortgage security or a uncollateralized loan. This is for non-bond related debt.
Okay, and we don't have any
No, you do not.
debt, so that's why that
It'll be a
okay, now,
slam dunk
I just
to
answered my own question, thank you. That's why that isn't in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Holder. Other questions or comments on the audit? Well, I would echo Trustee Kotinik's comments to both Lou and Joe for your excellence and precision in putting this together, and to you, Mr. Berg, for the professionalism. We do use these as a tool. We take them deadly serious, and they're very important to us as we look ahead in our own priorities and planning. So thank you all around. And to the board, this is not an action item. This is an item of acceptance. We accept the audit. And as I look up and down the rostrum here, I see a general acceptance of the audit. So I believe that concludes our agenda item for that. Thank you very much. Thank you, Trustee Augustine. With that, we have no other items under current business. Item 7, public comments regarding matters not on our agenda this evening. Item 8, trustee comments. Any trustee comments this evening? Trustee Kukler.
President Livingston, if I could just circle back to Ryan and the storm. The areas that where the intersections flooded, if and when we get the storm sewer built, will those be addressed, or how many of those will be addressed? And if you could just shed some more light on that.
Sure. So the 50th Street storm sewer is designed to improve flooding in many of those depressional areas where we did see flooding on Saturday night. We also took a look at the hydraulic model. A lot of times when we have these flooding events, we go back to look to see if what we experienced was what was expected. In this case, for the approximate 3 to 5 year event that that happened, we looked at the maps and it was confirmed that that was what was expected. So by saying that, the proposed project that we have would improve stormwater conveyance in those areas that experience flooding on Saturday night, in many of those areas, I should say.
Was there water that came from west to east over Brainerd Avenue?
Yes, there was. And in fact, our sewer system was surcharged, so the water began to overtop Brainerd Avenue and then came down, in one particular location, came down 51st and then south on Stone Avenue to those depressional areas. Once the storm ended, our sewer system was able to catch up, and then we quickly saw the water recede from those intersections where the depressional areas exist.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Kukler. Other comments? Trustee Holder?
I have a question for Charity. In our documentation, I see where your contract with Mark Sabatino is going to be ending, and I know we've gotten great value from his relationship, both in here in LaGrange, as well as LaGrange's presence in the United States as a community and a place for boxes to expand to. So I'm curious, are we going to continue that? And what your thoughts with regard to it?
Sure. So Mr. Sabatino's contract with the village was through the end of this year, and he's had a wonderful opportunity to take a full-time position in commercial real estate, and will be transitioning out with us as we wind down to the end of that contract. Looking forward, we do see that it has added a lot of value to have that additional capacity and bandwidth, and so we're looking at different ways that we might be able to accomplish that, either through restructuring of internal responsibilities with my staff, use of other resources that might be available. For example, this budget year, we have some money in the community development budget for an intern, to be able to really, keep the foot on the gas pedal on those economic development activities, particularly as we look ahead to implementing some larger projects like the upcoming comprehensive plan update.
And you're comfortable with your access without a facilitator like that, with organizations like ICSC and other places where they're kind of rich with opportunities for routing them here?
Sure. There's been a couple benefits, obviously, with Mr. Sabatino. Everyone comes with their own contacts, and he's been very generous in leveraging those contacts of his personal experience in helping the village in our efforts. But then also just the additional capacity of an additional set of hands to make appointments, make calls. But we had a very productive meeting at ICSC, and I'll be following up on those as we move forward. When we did put it out for RFP, he was really the only response that we received, so that's why we're kind of taking a look at different avenues going forward. If we did want to continue to engage in those sort of services, we might need to take a slightly different approach next time around.
Gotcha, thank you. Oh, I do want to congratulate you also for finding grants that we can apply to help with updating our comprehensive plan. Really super, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Holder. Thank you, Charity. Other trustee comments? It reminds me that Wheelies is now open in, I don't know the address, but it's on LaGrange Road on the east side. Really great place, so I want to encourage everybody to give them a spin. And I think they're one of the first, they're a national chain, but I think we're the first in the Chicago area, I believe, for Wheelies. I'm seeing head nodding. So again, great job to the LGBA and Charity and the Economic Development Commission and others. So with that, we have no items under closed session this evening. I would seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned until November 11th. Thank you.